Hi there, my name is John. I am the sales manager for a company called Royal Irish Tours. And over the next 20 minutes or so, I'll do a brief overview on the island of Ireland and we'll go through the Celtic Royal Coach Tour, which Sarah from Barefoot Travel will be escorting to Ireland in September of 2024. It's just a brief background on Royal Irish Tours and what we do and what we represent. We are a family owned and operated company. This gentleman here on the top left, Mr. Ian Duffy, immigrated from Ireland in the late 80s, worked in the tourism industry both in Ireland and over here in Canada. And 22 years ago, he found, I suppose, there was a niche in the market, that there was no company specialising in the island of Ireland. So he branched off, set up Royal Irish Tours, and we are now considered Canada's leading tour operator to Ireland and celebrating our 22nd year. Our main office is in Richmond Hill, and we have an office also in Dublin, Ireland. So what that means is when clients are over in Ireland, they're looked after 24/7. If anything should arise during a trip, we have our office in Dublin to look after you while in destination. So when we're talking about Ireland, why, for whatever reason, would people want to visit the island of Ireland itself? I think for most parts, when you're thinking about Ireland, it's the iconic scenery. I think first and foremost that has been projected from the tourism boards back in Ireland, especially over in Canada and North America for generations. The likes of the Cliffs of Moher, the Giant's Causeway, the seaside, I suppose, villages and towns. These are images that have been portrayed not only by tourist boards, but also through the likes of media, movies, for example, a big one there for our iconic scenery. Here's the Giant's Causeway up on the North Antrim coast, which you look on out onto the North Atlantic Ocean there, looking over to Scotland if the weather plays its way on a lovely day up on the northwest coast. A big one also for Ireland when we think about is the history itself. So you're talking about Ireland during the generations from the likes of the famine all the way up, and the different historical elements, I suppose, that have people interested in the island of Ireland. When we're talking about Canada and especially Ontario, I've noticed that there is quite a strong connection between Irish people and Ontario. And that comes from, I suppose, immigration throughout the years, but also the more recent years when we talk about or think about the Troubles in Northern Ireland, the big, I suppose, history point as well there, the 70s, 80s, all the way up until the 90s there. So a big, I suppose, point of interest when you think about Ireland and the historical events that led to, I suppose, immigration, not only to Canada, but throughout the world itself there. So also, I suppose the big one for Ireland is our castles. So the various neighbours that decided to come and stay a few hundred years, there are some great bright byproducts of that, none more so than the castles, the manors and the abbeys that have survived. This one here is Drumcliffe Castle. It's located in Connemara on the west of Ireland. It's about 5 minutes from where I grew up in Galway. It's fantastic. It was built in the 1500s by the O'Hynes family. It's still there today and it can be visited basically year round. So it's a fantastic one located on the bay there in Connemara itself. Kylemore Abbey, another historical place of interest where you had Benedictine nuns escaping persecution over in Belgium, escaped to Kylemore Abbey during the First World War, and to this day it's still operated by a convent nun. So fantastic little stories that you have throughout the island of Ireland of castles, manors and abbeys that are still in existence today. We can't really talk about Ireland and Canada without the Canadian connection. To date, there's 4.5 million Canadians that claim Irish ancestry. A lot of it goes back to the Irish famine, that there was a large immigration of people that left the island of Ireland for North America, especially. The likes of Canada being a main port of call for people coming in from Ireland. And even throughout to this day, from I suppose the Troubles, a lot of people that leaving Northern Ireland went over to Canada as well. And even right up to today, I'm 6 years myself here in Canada. You still have a lot more people immigrating now from Ireland, going over to the likes of Australia, Canada, and down into the States as well. But Canada today still has that important role, I think, as people leaving for I suppose, a new life or just wanting to travel for a bit. Years ago, you had a lot of people from Ireland going out to the East Coast was a popular destination. A lot of people from the southeast of Ireland, so the likes of Waterford and Wexford, ended up in the likes of St. John's and Newfoundland out on the East Coast. Nowadays, there's a lot more of an Irish connection, I think, the likes of Vancouver, and even in the interstates, the likes of Ontario as well, and Alberta. There's quite a big Irish population from more recent times as well. The more, I suppose, popular thing when people think about Ireland is, of course, the Irish pub. Having travelled throughout Canada the last couple of years, I've definitely noticed that there's an Irish pub to be seen in a lot of towns when you're travelling through. Back home, it plays a crucial role, I suppose, in the everyday life of communities, especially. You go into smaller towns and villages, and you'll always find a local pub. And in the past, they often served as a grocery store as well. So you go in and you could buy all the groceries. And as time, I suppose, moved on and you had the development of bigger grocery stores, the pub still remained. And now they become a point, I suppose, of maybe community meetings. Obviously, Irish music and dance is a big one. This one here, Malahide, we were back a few years ago. It's located in the town of Westport in Mayo, where the Celtic Royal will be staying for a couple of nights. And it's a place where Matt Malloy himself is a member of the Irish group, the Chieftains. So we were lucky enough when we were back there a few years ago that he was in fact in there the same night and was telling the group about different stories when he was touring Canada itself. So little pockets that you'll visit throughout Ireland, and you'll find little pubs, often with the name of the owners above the doors, as I said, because they often were used as the grocery store back in the day. Ireland as well, we have a strong, I suppose, Irish music and dance story as well. Over in Canada, I know Irish dance is quite popular even nowadays. Whereas back in Ireland, you'll often find the likes of music and dance in the local pubs, the town halls and things like that. So it's one of the great, I suppose, factors of Irishness throughout the world is the fact that music and dance, and still to this day, you have Irish artists touring around as well, which is fantastic. Food and drink is a big one as well in Ireland. Thankfully, over the last, I'd say, 10 or 15 years, the food and drink culture in Ireland has improved greatly. There is a big resurgence back home now with people shopping local as opposed to the influx of maybe meats and that coming from overseas. So when you think of Ireland, the likes of lamb, beef are big meat product that is local to us. And a lot of people, I think going back to the more rural, what's seasonal, what's in season, what can be got locally. So be it fishing on the west coast, or indeed what's seasonal when it comes to our meats as well. The big one, I suppose, is this farm to fork concept. So when you go into a lot of local restaurants back in Ireland, there is this ever-changing menu because of what is local. And there was a group of us here last year when we went out in the town of Sligo, right on the west coast of Ireland, and we went to visit an oyster farm. So they had as fresh as you could get seafood coming in for us, and you got to see firsthand the farming industry when it comes to the likes of oysters and things like that. That it's not only your cattle and your sheep in that instance, but also the industry that exists on the coast, the likes of Donegal and especially down on the west coast of Ireland. When we're thinking of Ireland, the proximity, just to give you an idea, it's roughly about a 6.5 hour flight from Toronto back to Dublin. And on the return, it's probably an additional hour, about seven and a bit hours. So relatively easy. Year-round flights operated by 3 airlines at the moment. And that tends to, bounce around in the summer months where you do have quite a lot of accessibility between Toronto and Dublin itself. Just to give you a better idea, when we're talking about Ireland, we're talking about the island itself. The island is made up of 32 counties, and the 26 counties remain part of the Republic. And then when we're talking about Northern Ireland, there's 6 counties up in Northern Ireland. Technically, it's a full island, and from a tourism point of view, we kind of cater for Ireland as a full island experience. On the ground itself, it's made up of 2 separate countries. You have the Republic, which is made up of 26 counties, and we've got 6 counties, as I said, as part of Northern Ireland. In the Republic, the main currency we use is euro, and in Northern Ireland, it's British pounds. There's no crossover between both, but the likes of credit cards, MasterCards, and Visas are widely accepted in pubs and restaurants throughout the island itself. When you're flying into Dublin on the east coast, just to give you a general idea of the proximity and the island itself, it's typically about 2.5 hours from Dublin Airport right through to Galway City, my hometown there. And then from the south in Cork right the way up to Malahide, we're talking about 7 hours of a drive itself. So in Canadian terms, it's quite a small island to get around. But in saying that, when you're traveling to any country, we always say to slow the pace down, enjoy it for what it is. There's a lot to be seen within an hour or 2 hours of a drive when you're over to Ireland itself. On the west coast, so just north of Derry, all the way down to Cork, we have the Wild Atlantic Way. So this is a fully scenic drive that embraces, I suppose, the Wild Atlantic. So you're right on the Atlantic coast and taking in the seaside towns, resorts that you have along the way. And just north of Belfast, we have the Causeway coastal route. So this is a fantastic drive that is included as part of the Celtic Royal. And you're going up right on the North Antrim coast there and taking in the fantastic scenery. And on a good day, then you're seeing right over to Scotland there. And right down then on the east coast, we've got Ireland's ancient east. So this is a focus on the older Ireland. So you're looking at the likes of Newgrange there, which is a 2,500 year old building, older than the pyramids of Egypt. It lights up twice a year during the winter and the summer solstice. So you do have more of a focus on the eastern coast there on Ireland's ancient east itself. So the tour itself is the Celtic Royal Coach Tour. So you land into Dublin and you'll do an anti-clockwise tour around and finish up in Limerick there 7 nights later. It's operating from September the 14th to 21st, and that is in 2024. So I'll briefly go through what's involved with the day-to-day. The full itinerary is available on the website, so hopefully we'll have a few more tips here along the way. So day one, you'll be flying overnight and you'll arrive into Dublin Airport. From there, you'll be picked up and transferred to your first hotel in the Grand Hotel in Malahide, County Dublin. So usually what happens is by the time you get through customs, you'll be brought off, you'll do a coastal drive around Dublin, and then you'll be brought to the hotel, the Grand Hotel, for check-in. Now, Malahide is it's a scenic town right on the coast on County Dublin. So it's quite an affluent area of Dublin. You're away from the city centre itself, but it's a nice place. You're only about 10 or 15 minutes from Dublin Airport itself. So nice and close to the airport. And to me, it's a great place. I often use it when I go back home as either my first or my last night of a trip, just because it's such a close proximity to the airport. You'll have your some free time in the afternoon, but you do have a drink reception and dinner included on the first night. What I usually recommend to people is once you get to the hotel, drop off your bags, go up to the room and go for a walk around Malahide Gardens and Castle. It's only about a 15-minute walk from the hotel itself. The town of Malahide is only about 5 minutes of a walk. So some great pubs and restaurants if you wanted to go in for lunch. But I always suggest aiming for the Malahide Gardens just to have a walk around. It's a great way to, I suppose, get over any bit of jet lag on the first day. You have a nice sea breeze there. You're right on the coast. But Malahide Castle and Gardens would be my recommendation for the first day, just to get in and have a walk around. The following morning then, I suppose, is the first day of touring itself. So after breakfast, you'll begin. You'll be brought from the coach and you're going up the east coast to a place called Downpatrick, where you'll visit the St. Patrick Visitor Centre there. So from there, we'll have some time to explore. You'll see the grave of St. Patrick itself. And it's a lovely town there, one of the oldest on the east coast of Ireland itself. From there, you're brought up then into Belfast City, where you will be for the next 2 nights. I was back recently in Ireland and we did a trip up. We had a few nights in Belfast and we had Dublin and did a similar route as the Celtic Royal. And the feedback was that people that were on the trip were often, I think, undersold on Belfast, of that they didn't really know what to expect when they went there. But the feedback was it was one of their favourite cities of the trip. I think Belfast, it's just a great city. It's close to get around. It's very accessible by foot. So once you're staying at the hotel, the Europa Hotel in Belfast, it's a great place to get around by foot. So what usually happens on this day from Downpatrick, you will drive into Belfast and we'll have a tour around the city itself. So I suppose one of the most famous ones that Belfast is known for is the murals that you'll see around certain avenues of Belfast City itself. So on the bottom right here, you see the Falls Road, which is traditionally a more nationalist area of Belfast itself. A lot of the people here identifying as Irish. So you'll see along different events in Irish history that are, I suppose, popular maybe in the nationalist movement there, that you'll see portrayed along the wall itself. So that's the Falls Road, and then you'll drive not so far away to the Shankill Road, which is more of a loyalist area or a unionist area of Belfast. So you'll see various moments in British history that are seen to be important to, I suppose, the unionist side of Belfast itself. So 1690, you'll have William of Orange portrayed here. So different icons, the likes of Queen Elizabeth, you'll see murals here when she passed away that have been created in her honour. So quite a loyalist area there in the Shankill. So it is a very interesting perspective, especially on the island of Ireland. I think it's important that people, when they're going over, that the likes of Belfast and the likes of Derry and Northern Ireland are visited and experienced. So you get to see firsthand how Belfast City is today. You're overnighting in the Europa Hotel, which is a fantastic city centre location right in the heart of Belfast itself. You're within walking distance of all fantastic pubs and restaurants in the city itself. The following morning then, after breakfast, of course, you'll be brought by coach. It's usually about a 5-minute drive out to the Titanic experience. So this is a fantastic highlight on this day. So the Titanic experience, it's relatively new. I believe it's just over 10 years old this year, and they had some new installations put in recently when I was back. To me, it's one of the best visitor experiences the island of Ireland has to offer. We usually allow for about 2.5 hours here, and it's a fantastic, it gives the history of shipbuilding in Belfast city itself. Obviously the Titanic, but more so the demographic of Belfast at the time, who worked there, who didn't work there, and how big the industry was at the time to Belfast. And then you get talked through the production of the Titanic, and it's really fascinating inside. You go and turn a corner, there's one wall that's covered with all the names of the people that were on board the Titanic. There's different stories, there's artifacts, first-hand artifacts from the Titanic. When we were back recently, they had an actual life jacket from the Titanic. They had a chair from the Titanic on display. So it's quite a fascinating, moving exhibition, but one where I feel it's one of the top experiences that the island of Ireland has to offer. You have some free time also in Belfast today, and a visit to Belfast City Hall is also included as part of this. So it's quite a nice day. Not too much moving around on the coach on this day, but it's a great experience and a nice pace of a day before the following day, which is probably one of the longer days on the trip itself. So you leave from Belfast, you'll go up the Antrim coast, and you'll finish up in Donegal that night. The main highlight of the day, I suppose, there's two in my opinion. One is the Giant's Causeway, of course. So probably the second most natural visited attraction in Ireland, the Giant's Causeway, located on the north coast in Antrim. So there's different stories of how it evolved, be it the scientific reasoning with a volcanic eruption, or the fantasy reasoning of Finn McCool and Ben and Donner and the story there as well. So whatever reason, we leave it up to yourself what to believe, but it is a great story when you go there, and it's a fantastic walk just down from the visitor centre to the basalt columns on the Giant's Causeway. From there, we continue the drive throughout Northern Ireland, and we have a walking tour of Derry City. So Derry City is fantastic. Again, one of Northern Ireland's top cities in my opinion. So we'll stay there and have a walking tour of the city. Again, the murals are quite popular in Derry, portraying major events that happened, especially a lot of them during the Troubles, and different icons that were, I suppose, crucial to the peace process going on as well. So Derry City, a fantastic walking tour that we have, usually operated by Ronan McNamara, who gives first-hand accounts of what has happened in the past and where Derry City, I suppose, is today. So it's a fantastic wall city, and we have the tour itself of the murals and the old wall city itself. From there, we're overnight in a place called Stranorlar in Donegal, a lovely family-owned hotel. And from there, then the following morning, we're going to make our way down the west coast towards Westport for a couple of nights. So the following day then, after breakfast, you're going down towards Westport. So the main highlight, I suppose, on this day, it's quite a leisurely paced day as well today, a lot of sightseeing involved. Belleek pottery was one of, I suppose, when I was there a few years ago, I didn't know too much about pottery making, nor was I overly fascinated with pottery making. But of the attractions I went to, this one was probably the most surprised on my reaction on what to expect. It is fantastic to see. You're going in and you're actually seeing first-hand pottery making today, which is, I suppose, a bit of a dying trade with the industrialization and how modified production units are now. But you're going in and you're seeing first-hand the workers at work, and they'll show you how certain designs are made. This one here, for example, the Claddagh ring symbol on the side of, I believe it's a tea jug here. So it's a great experience for people to see firsthand certain economies within Ireland that still exist, and the likes of Belleek pottery has a huge overseas influence, the likes of North America, especially in Canada as well, where a lot of the product does end up rather than Europe itself. A lot of it does go to North America, but it's a fascinating insight to see an industry that's still surviving despite, I suppose, the evolution of production. So from here, then, you're overnighting in the town of Westport. I'd usually recommend a trip up to Malahide, or the Porterhouse next door is a good spot as well for a bit of live music in the town of Westport. The following day, then, we're going into the heart of Irish-speaking west of Ireland. So you're going into the likes of Connemara, Kylemore Abbey for a visit. So Connemara is still, it's a Gaeltacht area of Ireland. So what a Gaeltacht area is you have parts in Connemara, up in the west coast of Donegal, west of Kerry, and certain pockets in County of Meath in the Midlands as well. So the Gaeltacht is an Irish-speaking area where Gaelic or Irish is the first language that is used by the majority of the locals there. Of course, a lot of them will speak English, and when they see a tour bus coming, they'll be well equipped to switch over to the English language. But it's, to me, it's a step back in time. When you're going over to the likes of Connemara, you're seeing how, I suppose, a lot of life was in the olden days. Similar to the Aran Islands as well, off the west coast, where they are Gaelic-speaking islands as well. You're seeing kind of an older tradition of industry that still exists, and the Irish language, which is still prevailing, thankfully, in the west coast there. So we'll have some time in Kylemore Abbey. And again, as I said, you're kind of stepping back and seeing what a lot of Ireland was back in the olden days. Industry is not quite heavy when you think of Connemara. A lot of the area is quite barren. Farming wise would only be good for the likes of maybe goats or sheep. So you don't see much, let's say, beef raising or grain over on this side of Ireland itself. So you go through Kylemore Lake there, and it's a fantastic area, the west of Ireland, and you're seeing from there right onto the Atlantic Ocean itself. From there, we're back into Westport again that night to enjoy some dinner. So it's a nice 2 nights. You're not having to unpack, so you have 2 nights in Westport itself. The following day is probably one that I do have a soft spot for, because you're going to my home city of Galway. So you have some time here in the late morning to enjoy Galway city itself. It's a medieval city. It's quite a bohemian city. So they have 2 universities in the city itself. I suppose its most famous one is the Claddagh Ring, is what I think Galway city is probably most globally known for. So where this picture is taken here is from the Claddagh area of Galway, and you're looking across onto the long walk just on the shores of Galway Bay there. So it's fantastic if you want to go in and visit Dillon's Jewelers there, which are the original Claddagh, the original makers of the Claddagh Ring itself. Galway City Museum, which is a free experience as well, is great to go in. You get the history of Galway as well, and how big the industry was when you think of the Galway shawl, the fishing industry as well. So fantastic place. And if you are looking for the likes of lunch, the seafood here in Galway is fantastic. So one not to miss if you're looking. McDonald's fish and chips is one of the top, and would be my recommendation when you're in Galway City. From here, then, we go to one of the big attractions on this tour itself, which are the Cliffs of Moher. So this is Ireland's most visited national attraction, located in the county of Clare, right on the west coast. So you're looking right onto the Atlantic Ocean from here. We usually allow a couple of hours just to wander around and see for yourself the vastness of the Atlantic Ocean and the cliffs itself. So this has been used in various movies in the past as well. So I'm sure you would have seen in the likes of Harry Potter and that down through the years. It has and is continued to use in filming. And if the weather is good, you might see a few puffins along the way as well. But it is a fantastic experience, and it's very well maintained on top level as well. So you get to see it in comfort, so you don't have to go walking right to the edge or anything like that. There's some fantastic flagstones on your path along the way. From there, you're down to Limerick that night, where you do have an optional medieval banquet if you want to experience the castle there with some dancing and live music as well. So this is one, it's a fantastic day. It's probably one of the most outdoor days when you have the likes of Galway City and the cliffs. So you're getting in the best of the wild Atlantic sea breeze there. So it's fantastic. And you're into Limerick then for that night, into the Radisson Hotel. The following morning, then you'll be brought back to Dublin Airport. So you'll have a transfer back to Dublin Airport. If you want to add on additional nights in Dublin at the end, that's a possibility certainly as well. So it can be arranged with Sarah and the team there, Barefoot. And as we say in Ireland, Slán Abhaile, which basically means safe home, is the translation into the English language. So it's a nice tour. In my opinion, it's a great option for people that haven't been over to Ireland before. You're getting a taste of the Republic of Ireland as well as Northern Ireland, which in my opinion is crucial for people coming over, that you're getting the full island experience. You're not just being shown one part as opposed to the other. I feel it's important going forward that people going over to the island of Ireland are actually getting a taste of just cities like Belfast as well as Westport. It's crucial, I think, for the image of Ireland that you're getting a taste for both. So if there are any questions that following on from this, feel free to reach out to Sarah and we'll be happy to help. And as we say in certain parts of Ireland, Gira Míle Maith Agat. Thank you very much and have a great day.